Okay, so I want to walk you through how you can create a competitor battle card using Claude. And if you're not familiar with the concept, a competitor battle card is basically a document which contains key information about your competitors that you can very easily access and use as a point of reference during your discovery calls or during your initial outbound. Basically, serves as a point of reference, and it can help you close more deals because you're more aware of what your competition does and how your solution stacks up against the competition. So, if you don't know me, my name is Audie, and I run a sales enablement agency focused on the creation of sales assets, such as competitor battle cards. So what I'm going to walk you through is how you can use Claude, which is basically a large research tool, in order to create these sort of competitor battle cards quite simply. So without further ado, I want to get into it here. So when you're doing in terms of creating a sales asset, you want to start with the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are you want the tool, which in this case is Claude, you want it to do research so that way it has up to date information and it's not relying on very old training data that it got trained on 1, 2, 3 years ago. So that's what I'm doing right here. So I tell it, like, for example, I established, first of all, you are a sales enablement expert. Our solution is for this case in point, I just use hypothetically. I said, let's say I'm part of HubSpot and my competitor is Salesforce. Pretty classic competition here. So HubSpot, obviously an all in one CRM, and it's got a free foundation, fast setup, so forth. And their solution is Salesforce. And basically, what I'm doing right here is I'm explaining kind of a couple points of differentiation in my mind between my tool, which is HubSpot, and Salesforce. And I'm explaining who the typical buyer is, who we're prospecting to. So this information is only there in order for us to pull relevant information from each of the companies. And for if you're putting your own solution here, I would recommend you either add in the documents as attachments or you simply link to your website. You can do those sort of things very easily using Claude, and it will be able to pull in the right information from your website and your assets. And you can do the same thing for your competitor with publicly available information. Like, for example, you can put in their website into their solution, this section right here. So, and that's the first point, and it gets the information, and you need this information. So, product updates, pricing structure, marketing, implementation, competitive strengths, and then Salesforce. How does their pricing structure look? What are their product updates? Implementation costs, timeline, cost breakdown, and so forth. So basically, it will establish a bit of a head-to-head comparison here, and this is obviously great. But what you want to do from here is you want to actually turn this into a card that you can use during the prospecting and during the discovery call process. And so that's what I ask it to do next. So I ask it, create a battle card that lists 5 differentiators between my company and theirs that matter to buyers, provides 6 objections with natural responses, include 3 questions that expose competitor weaknesses, and suggest proof points for each differentiator, and use conversational language and be specific. And basically, it will go through and it will create this full document for you right here. So I need to give it a second to load, but basically, it will establish what are Salesforce strengths, Salesforce weaknesses, and it will go through and do the differentiation, key objections, discovery questions, and so forth. I want to break this down a bit further. That's why I'm skimming over a few things here, but this is kind of what you're looking at in terms of a final result. So once you've done that, you might want to do things such as telling it to simplify the wordiness or create some crisper sentences for each section, and it can do that as well. So sometimes if you don't want it to be so wordy, you can ask it to do very simple things such as that. And of course, you can ask it to speed things up because sometimes it does go slowly. So another important point here is asking it to do various things. So, very specific things. So, like for example, like let's say your prospect is currently using Salesforce. So, this is kind of where AI really shines because AI can personalize these battle cards based off of your prospect's situation. So, let's say they currently use Salesforce. You can ask it, you can tell Claude to identify common pain points after year two, a migration path that reduces risk, a question about the renewal, and then a success story of a similar switch. And it can actually go and it will create those sorts of features for you right here. So, for example, identifies common pain points if they're currently using Salesforce right now. So you can basically think of this as an if-then scenario that you can make as part of your competitor battle card, and you can identify what exactly is the migration path, and then a relevant question that that might provoke them to think about, hey, do I want to continue using Salesforce? Do I want to switch over? These sorts of questions will help you come up with. So I think overall, the broader point I want to get to here is that how well AI helps in terms of preparing you for your sales call and preparing your sales team for their sales calls. So once you've done that, you can create other objections as well. Like for example, Salesforce has more features. For example, it has a Dreamforce. There's other features that it has a very good AI agentic platform that HubSpot might not be able to compete with. And you might want to say, hey, can you create a couple objection responses that we can utilize for that? And basically, it can do that here. Essentially, in this section right here, you can identify what exactly are some of the key objections. Like, for example, we need Salesforce advanced features. You can ask it, like, what are these specific features? Like companies that are only using like a certain subset of that. And this basically helps you keep on track and reduces the potential for a deal to go RE based off of very particular questions or objections. Um, so once you've done all that, you need to finally go in terms of creating the card itself. And for example, you might not want a Word doc, and you may want, like, for example, a more easily visualized document. And that can be done using HTML, for example. So obviously, this is a version which has a bit less detail, but you can get all the valuable information from this as well. So you can get the company snapshot of Salesforce, recent news, top five Salesforce strengths, its weaknesses, how they price usually, um, head-to-head comparison, based off of publicly available information, common objections and responses, and some discovery questions that help you to identify what are Salesforce's weaknesses. Like for example, big issue with Salesforce in comparison to a tool like HubSpot may be the fact that Salesforce has more implementation and consulting costs on the back end compared to a more easier to use tools such as HubSpot. And that can be a discovery question that you can ask the prospect, and AI will help you identify those key opportunities based off of publicly available information. And again, it also goes through that path that we were discussing before in terms of, let's say they're using Salesforce right now. What is the process of migrating over to HubSpot? So I hope you get the broad idea in terms of actually executing this yourself. I have, like, for example, a couple prompts up there. You want to make sure that it's completely valid. So you tell it specifically to, not come up with things. You tell it to, you have to tell it to use publicly available resources and to cite its sources. That's an important component. And that's something you have to proof check with AI, is to make sure it's doing that and it's not hallucinating. That's an important component of the process. So I hope you get the broad idea here. That is sort of what it looks like. This is what a final version of the battle card is. And as you can see, you can create these for any competitor. So for example, another CRM is Go High Level or Close.com, or trying to think of any others off the top of my head. I don't really know anymore, but those are the common ones. Or creating it yourself using Airtable or Make.com. So you can create 5 or 6 very personalized and customized battle cards and update these on a regular basis and use them as tools in order to facilitate the sales process. And that's where AI really shines, is because it is basically a high leverage research tool that enables you to create these assets at scale. So hopefully you found this useful. If you have any interest in creating these assets yourself and you want some help in the process, feel free to reach out. Personally, the whole goal of this process is to facilitate the sales process, improve conversion rates for B2B, and overall make the sales process much more simpler. So hopefully you derive some value from this video, and I'll see you in the next one.